All right, let's kick off another deep dive. Today we're going deep into PCIe land, specifically PRI messaging. You send over some really interesting research on this.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool area.
It is. Most people, though, they probably don't even realize how much PCIe impacts their, everyday computing.
Totally. It's kind of the unsung hero, right?
Yeah, totally. Peripheral Component Interconnect Express,
PCIe.
PCIe for short, the high-speed data highway inside our devices. Without it, things would just stop.
Yeah, it'd be a mess.
Total mess. But today, we're not looking at the whole highway. We're zeroing in on one specific off-ramp, PII messaging. Came along with PCIe 3.0.
And it's become super important, especially for all these virtualized environments.
Yeah, which are everywhere now.
Everywhere. Think cloud computing, virtual machines, even just like running apps in a sandbox. Those all use virtualization.
Okay, so before we get into the nuts and bolts of PRI, can you set the scene a bit? What was the problem it solved? What was going on in these virtual environments that needed fixing?
So imagine you've got a virtual machine humming away on your computer. It needs data.
Sure.
But that data might not actually be in the memory directly given to that virtual machine.
Ah, so it's like you're trying to do a puzzle, but some of the pieces are in a whole other room.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. In the past, the virtual machine had to go through this middleman, the hypervisor, or even the operating system to get those missing pieces.
Right.
And that was slow, inefficient, bottlenecks, delays, the whole 9 yards.
Ugh, I can imagine. Especially if you're trying to do anything like time sensitive?
Yeah.
So how does PRI messaging swoop in and save the day?
It's like giving that virtual machine a key to the other room. It gets a direct line to the data it needs. No more middleman.
Cutting out the hypervisor.
Exactly.
I like it. And in the research you sent, they break it down into 4 steps. Is it really that simple?
Well, the steps themselves, conceptually, yeah, pretty straightforward.
Okay.
First, the virtual machine, it uses something called a DMA controller, figures out, hey, I need this specific data. Then it puts together this request message, like a little package, saying, here's where the data I need is, and that message goes straight to the device that actually holds the data.
So no more going to the hypervisor saying, hey, can you get this for me?
Yeah.
And waiting for it to come back.
Nope. Direct route. Then the device that gets this request, it double checks. Hold on, is this virtual machine actually allowed to access this data?
Ah, security check.
Exactly. Got to keep things safe. If everything looks good, then boom, access granted, data transfer starts.
Much smoother. Makes sense why everyone's talking about PRI messaging being so fast and efficient.
Right. And the research actually digs into 3 big benefits: reduced latency, improved efficiency, and of course, enhanced security.
Hit me with that latency first. What does that even mean in real-world terms?
Right, think about loading a web page.
Okay.
Before PRI messaging, that virtual machine's request, it would go through layers of software, each layer adding a tiny delay. With PRI, it's like a shortcut, direct to the hardware, much faster response.
So is that why when I'm cloud gaming, it's gotten so much better lately? Less lag?
Could definitely be a factor. Online gaming, streaming, even VR, all those things need super low latency to work well.
Wow. Amazing to think, this behind-the-scenes tech is making such a difference to what we actually experience.
It really is.
Okay, but you said there were more benefits. What about this improved efficiency?
Well, it goes hand in hand with that reduced latency.
Okay.
By cutting out all those extra steps, PRI messaging basically frees up system resources. Your computer can juggle more tasks without getting bogged down.
So it's like optimizing your workflow, but at the hardware level.
Precisely. And this is especially important in virtualized environments. You might have multiple virtual machines running at the same time, all needing those resources.
Right. Battling it out. And then finally, the security aspect. You said enhanced security was one of PRI's big wins.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Picture a security guard at the entrance to a VIP area. PII messaging lets you control, very specifically, which virtual machines get to access which parts of memory.
Like a bouncer for your data. Only the right credentials get you in.
Exactly. And that keeps everything safe and sound.
Makes sense. But is this just for virtualization? The research hinted that there were other uses too.
You're sharp. Yeah, PRI messaging is pretty versatile. For instance, it can make communication between processors way faster.
Oh, interesting.
Imagine you've got multiple processors in a system working on some complex task.
Okay.
Instead of them having to go through some central hub to talk to each other, PRI lets them communicate directly.
Like a direct line.
Exactly.
Makes sense. That would speed things up a lot.
Especially for things like rendering images or processing huge data sets. High bandwidth, low latency, that's what you need.
So it's not just about virtual machines then. This is much broader.
Yep.
Okay, what else?
Oh, and we can't forget cache coherency.
Cache coherency.
It's a mouthful, but basically, PRI messaging helps ensure that if multiple processors or even different devices are accessing the same data, everyone's got the most up-to-date version.
Oh, I see. So no more working with old information or having things get out of sync.
Exactly. Like, imagine a team working on a shared document.
Okay.
With cache coherency, everyone sees the latest edits in real time.
Makes sense. So that's pretty vital for all sorts of things.
Absolutely.
This is all super interesting, but I gotta admit, my brain's starting to get a little fuzzy on the technical details.
Happens to the best of us.
How is all this actually implemented? They kept mentioning this IOMU thing in the research.
Ah, yes. The IOMU, the Input-Output Memory Management Unit.
Okay, not any easier to say. What does it actually do?
Think of it as the traffic cop for PRI messaging.
Okay.
It translates, see, the virtual machine, it uses these virtual addresses, like a made-up map of where data is. But the hardware, it needs physical addresses, the real deal.
Right. So the IOMMU is like a translator then.
Perfect analogy. It bridges that gap between the virtual world of software and the physical world of hardware.
I like it. And what about the devices themselves and the drivers? Do they need to know about PRI messaging for this to work?
Oh, absolutely. For PRI messaging to really shine, everyone needs to be on board. Devices, drivers, the whole shebang.
So it's like you could build a brand new highway, but if the cars aren't equipped to drive on it?
Exactly.
No
Big
bug.
waste of a highway.
Totally. Got to have those PRI-aware drivers, firmware, everything talking the same language.
Got it. And I'm guessing security is a big thing here too, right?
Huge. We've talked about the benefits, but you got to implement those security measures right, or you're just creating new problems.
It's like installing a top-of-the-line security system, but leaving your back door wide open.
Exactly. Robust security. From day one, that's the key.
Makes sense. So we've covered the problem PRI messaging solves, those 4 steps, the big benefits, even touched on implementation and security. This is great. It really shows you how something that seems super technical can actually have a massive impact on how we use tech every single day.
Totally. But before we go crowning PRI messaging as the ultimate data access champion, let's put it in context.
Good point.
The research compared it to some other things out there.
Yeah, it's important to see how it stacks up against other ways of handling data in PCIe. One they highlighted was request-based completion, RBC.
Okay, so RBC, how's that different from PRI messaging? Are they like rivals, or do they work together?
They're actually tackling different parts of the data management puzzle.
Okay.
Think of RBC as being focused on completing tasks. It's like making sure your online order actually gets delivered to your doorstep.
Right.
PRI messaging, on the other hand, it's about getting access to the stuff in the store in the first place.
So they're different parts of the whole process.
Exactly. They both have their roles, but they operate at different levels.
Makes sense. Now, there was another one mentioned, AMBACHI. That rings a bell. Something to do with mobile devices, right?
Yeah. You got it. AMBACHI is a tech you find a lot in ARM-based systems. So smartphones, tablets, that sort of thing.
So different solution for a similar problem, but in a different context.
Precisely. Different architectures have different needs, so you get different approaches.
Man, it's wild how complex all this is. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we never even think about.
It really is amazing.
Okay, so PRI messaging. We've seen how it compares to RBC, to AMBACHI. Different tools for different jobs.
Exactly. And each one has its own strengths and weaknesses.
Which brings us to a slightly less exciting question. Any downsides to PRI messaging? Nothing's perfect, right?
Of course not. While PRI messaging is a great leap forward, there are a few things to keep in mind. One of the big ones is just how complex it is to implement.
Oh, right.
Getting PRI messaging working smoothly in a system, it's not a walk in the park. Hardware, software, everything has to play nice together.
Like adding a new lane to a busy highway during rush hour. Got to make sure it doesn't cause any pileups.
Exactly. You need skilled engineers to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Right. And even then, wouldn't there still be some, like, performance overhead? Adding another process to the system, even if it's a shortcut, it still takes some resources, right?
True. While PRI messaging generally gives you big gains, there is a tiny bit of overhead. Think of it like a small toll you pay for using the express lane.
Ah, Okay, so you get there faster, but it still costs a little something.
Precisely. And then, of course, there's the security aspect. We've touched on it, but it's really important to highlight that with PRI messaging, security has to be top-notch.
Right, because if someone can exploit a weakness in the system.
Exactly. That direct access that makes PRI so powerful, it can also be a risk if it's not properly secured.
So we need those robust safeguards you were talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've really dug deep here. The complexities of PRI messaging, the benefits, the potential downsides, even compared it to other approaches. This has been super informative.
It really shows you how much thought goes into designing these systems.
It really does. But this is all pretty technical. What does it actually mean for, the average person listening? How does this tech that most people haven't even heard of actually impact their lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Think about the devices you use every day, your computer, your smartphone, your car. Lots of them rely on high-speed data transfer to work properly.
Okay.
And PRI messaging is a big part of making that happen smoothly and efficiently.
So faster loading times, smoother multitasking, a more secure online experience.
All thanks to PRI messaging working behind the scenes.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. And as we rely more and more on data-heavy stuff, virtual reality, the cloud, all of that, the importance of technologies like PRI messaging is only going to grow.
It's like the foundation upon which the future of computing is being built.
Exactly. Which brings us to a very interesting question. As data demands keep increasing, what new innovations are we going to see in PCIe and even beyond?
That's a great question. I mean, this deep dive has been incredible, but it's clearly just one chapter in this ongoing story of technology.
And that's what's so cool about it, right? Always something new to learn, new frontiers to explore, new challenges to overcome.
It's like we've opened a door to this whole new world of understanding, and now we're eager to see what lies beyond.
And that's the spirit of the deep dive, isn't it? To explore the complex, uncover the hidden gems, and just, spark that sense of wonder about the tech that shapes our lives. It really is like getting this backstage pass, seeing how everything works, all the stuff we usually don't even think about.
Right. And it's those little things, the ones we take for granted, that can have a huge impact.
Totally. It's about getting curious, appreciating all the innovation that makes our tech work, even if we don't see it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on PRI messaging, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
We've learned a lot, right? PRI messaging, big step forward for PCIe, especially in these virtualized environments we were talking about.
Yeah, we've gone deep on how it works, the good, the bad, even compared it to other approaches.
Right. But technology, it never sits still.
Always evolving.
Exactly. Always pushing for more efficiency, speed, security, you name it.
So the question is,
Yeah.
as we use more and more data, more demanding applications, what's next for PCIe? And not just PCIe, but the whole landscape.
Ooh, that is a great question. It's like this deep dive has been amazing, but it's just a snapshot, right? What's come around the corner? What challenges are we going to face? And how will tech rise to meet them?
Right. We saw how PRI messaging solved those problems with data access in PCIe. What's the next hurdle? What crazy solutions are engineers cooking up right now?
I love thinking about that. Maybe we'll get even more direct ways to access data like zero bottlenecks, super low latency.
Or maybe entirely new architectures, completely different ways of storing, processing, sending data around.
Oh, or what if AI gets even more involved? Predicting what data we need before we even ask for it, optimizing everything behind the scenes.
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
And that's what makes exploring this stuff so much fun. It's not just about today, it's about getting a glimpse into the future.
Totally. It's about always being willing to learn, being ready for whatever comes next in this crazy digital world.
And remember, everyone listening, you're a part of this too. Your curiosity, what you want from your tech, your feedback, it all drives innovation.
So as we wrap up this PRI messaging deep dive, stay curious, keep exploring, don't stop asking those questions.
The tech world is vast, always changing. There's always something new to discover.
And we'll be here to help you make sense of it all, one deep dive at a time.
Thanks for coming along on this journey into the heart of PCIe. Until next time, happy exploring. It really makes you think, something like PRI messaging. Most people have probably never even heard of it.
Right.
But it's having this, ripple effect on how we use tech every single day.
It really shows you. Progress doesn't always have to be some big, flashy announcement. Sometimes it's those little tweaks, the optimizations that most people don't even see that make the biggest difference.
Yeah, totally. It's like the foundation of a house. You don't see it, but it's holding everything up.
Yeah.
And as we demand more from our tech, those foundations have got to keep getting stronger.
Exactly. PRI messaging, it's part of that evolution. It's a response to needing faster, more efficient, more secure data access.
Yeah.
Especially as the world gets more and more virtualized.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone listening with this thought.
Okay.
Don't underestimate the power of those seemingly small advancements.
Yeah.
They might not be making headlines, but they're quietly changing everything. How we interact with the digital world, how we do things, how we connect, how we explore, all of it.
It's a testament to how inventive we can be, always trying to push those boundaries. And who knows what the future holds. But one thing's for sure, that drive to innovate, it's going to keep leading us to even more amazing tech that'll change our lives.
I can't wait to see what's next. So, to everyone who joined us for this PRI messaging journey, I hope it's not just giving you a better understanding of this tech, but also sparked some curiosity about all the stuff that makes our devices tick.
Keep exploring. Keep those questions coming and never stop learning. There's a whole universe out there in the tech world, always changing, always something new.
We'll be here to help you navigate it one deep dive at a time. Thanks for listening, and until next time, happy exploring.